Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Agyantimidam Dasya Gananjara Sharakaya Chakshu Militam Yena Tashmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupam Kadamayam Dadati Shvapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Sha Shri Rupa Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sam Jivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Shritanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitam Sha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kansana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshvari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Panamami Hari Priye Vam Shakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhyayavasya Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare. Okay, so are you clear on this 7th chapter? Anyone would like to recap a little bit this 7th chapter? You know? Briefly, yeah. Let's just fly over it. Huh? It's a flyover. Huh? So we are in which part of the Gita? Remember, the Gita is divided into 3.
Devotional service.
Yes, definitely. This is the most intimate part. Is Acharya has mentioned that just like the king and his retinue, they walk in the middle of the army. They're protected from behind, there's an army, and also up front, there's also another portion of the army. So Bhakti is between the two, Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga. But it gives life to both by touching both. This is also the point. Okay? Would you like to say anything on this 7th chapter? Let's say you have 5 minutes to sum it up. Up to now, what would you say?
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so basically, last time we discussed about the first 19 verses. Krishna talks about how to understand him, the process of hearing. Like earlier, he talked about the process of yoga in the last chapter. Yes. Now we'll be expanding on that theme. How person who is intimately connected with Krishna, the process of yoga, how can we understand him? How can we develop a desire? Like he used a specific word in the first chapter of attaching the mind to him.
Yes.
And then he explains further on the process of Krishna is the source of all, both material as well as spiritual energies. He explains about the material energies and again the spiritual energies. Then again he talks about the 3 modes are ultimately controlled by Krishna in the later section. And then he talks about the 4 kinds of people who do not surrender to Krishna. And then again the 4 kinds of people who surrender to Krishna. So
yes, true.
Broadly, 19 verses This is what we discussed last time.
Good. It's a good recap. Thank you. Did Chandra Prabhu, did he make a clear cut in regard to the Gyani as discussed in 16, 16, 17, 18, 19? Now we're talking about a Gyani here, but I hope he did a nice distinction. What kind of a Gyani is he, this person? I'm going back a little bit. It was not my turn, but I just want to make sure he got it right.
It's those usually mostly like the impersonalists, Mayavadis, the Gyanis, they want to know about who is God, what is it.
Do you agree with that, Vignesh?
Yeah, like I just like to add one thing, like this could be a Jnana Mishra Bhakti, a Jnana Mishra Bhakta, who is not purely situated in Shuddha Bhakti. They are in Gyan, but they are mixed with other aspects of yoga as well. So they are not in a very pure state of Bhakti Yoga.
Okay.
I think then in conclude the last verse of Bhunam Janmanamante. So then Krishna says ki even these Gyanis, after many, many births, ultimately understand about him, about Krishna. So then they actually become Shuddha Bhakta.
Okay, so I'm going to be the devil's advocate as usual. What does it say? Why then does it say in 17 and 18? You have seen Krishna is extolling them like anything. He's going out of his way. 18, of all these four, they're all great magnanimous souls, no doubt, but that Gyani, just remember, it's just a Gyani in name only. Is considered like my own self. Being engaged in my transcendental service is sure to attain me, the highest and most perfect goal. So is it just a plain monist, like Goloka is saying? Gyani is a very vast term in Sanskrit. It's a huge term, just like it's like a big bag, it's a Gyani. That's to be defined. Krishna himself is spending 17, 18, 19 on this Gyani. So don't you think it's important the Lord himself?
Krishna is advocating the bhakti yogis, those who render devotional service to him. There's a lot of people seeking for spiritual life. It doesn't necessarily they engage in devotional service, they engage in other process, like, meditation, meditate on the super soul. And
what does it say here in 17, 18? Of these, the one who is in full knowledge and who is always engaged in pure devotional service is the best. Yeah. Talking about the Gyani here, be very careful. Huh? That's why I could smell something was not conveyed properly.
Like in this verse 7.17, Krishna uses the word Eka Bhakti Vishishyate. So Krishna is first giving a broad umbrella of Gyanis, but then he's specifically mentioning about the Eka Bhakti, the one who is doesn't have any adulteration of Jnana and Karma. Amongst them,
he's
Gyanis,
talking about this Gyani. He's talking about this Gyani. Actually, they call him Gyani, but Bodhijan Prabhu used to say it's just a Gyani in name only. He's a very advanced soul. He's a very advanced soul. He's not an impersonalist. Be careful with that. He's not an impersonalist. He knows about the Lord. Still, I agree with Vignesh. He should still get the Lord Kripa, definitely, but it's very high. It's not as high as Uddhav, like Uddhav in 11, 14, 15 in Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishna is saying to Uddhav, you are as dear. You are more dear. You are dearer than my own life to me. So no, he's not as close to Uddhav, but in 17, he's very dear to Krishna. I'm dear to him, he's dear to me. 18 is like my own self. be engaged in my transcendental service is sure to attain me. Be careful. He's not just a monist. He's a very advanced soul. There's a gap of difference between the first two, which are basically sakam, I would say, sakam karmi, yogi. Then much higher, you'll find the jigyasu. And very much higher, you find that Gyani. But this Gyani is only a Gyani in name only. Actually, he's a very advanced soul. Very advanced soul.
Is Krishna speaking about the Suddha Bhakta, means
Where are you?
The Suddha Bhakta, so like one who is really rich, the topmost, like the Uttama Adhikari.
Yeah. Suddha Bhakta, yes, okay, but he's getting there, Don't think he's a monist. Otherwise, why would Krishna spend 17 and 18 saying is in pure bhakti? It's very, very clear in 17. He's always engaged in pure devotional service to me. Isn't it? I mean, I'm reading, do I have a different Gita? He's like my own self, 18. He's engaged in my transcendental, he's sure to attain me. So I remember Burijan Prabhu spending quite a good amount of time on this one, because oftentimes devotees fall into the trap. Oh, it's just another monist. No. Why would Krishna spend 2-3 verses on him only? Be careful. He's a self-realized soul. Just like, I'm teaching now the third canto for the VIHE. We're discussing about the 4 Kumars, offending Jai Vijay. So just like the 4 Kumars, we are just discussed about that. 3rd canto, 15th chapter, 16th chapter. The 4 Kumars are becoming pure devotees. They smell. They're offering choices, prayers to the Lord, exquisitely beautiful. They are Brahmavadis, yes, but they're becoming Mahabhagavat on the spot. You have to understand, this type of Gyani is already pure. It's like 255. Remember 255? Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Prajati Yadakaman Savanpatan Manugatan Atmanyama Manatushto Stita Pragya Tadochyate. It doesn't at all take shelter in sense gratification. He understands sense gratification is only concoction of the mind only. Is Atmaram, Atmakam. You understand? Is self-contented. And when it comes in contact, just like the 4 Kumars or Shukdev Goswami, they're already pure, they're already Nirgun, they are already Brahmabhut. As soon as he comes in contact with the Lord, it results in prem, due to exceptional kripa of the Lord and of the devotees. See? So in other words, if you want to find another passage of the scriptures that deal with such a devotee, I would say Upadeshamrit number 10. Gyan Vimukta Bhakti Param. See, if some of you were saying, well, he's a Jnana Mishra Bhakta. Nishkam Jnana Mishra Bhakta would be in 8.12. If you look at 8.12, you will see. This is Nishkam Jnana Mishra Bhakta, definitely. But here, this fellow, described in 17:18 of 7th chapter, he has no desire for liberation. Is like the Gyan Vimukta Bhakti Param. Why is he more dear than the other 3? Because he has no material desire. Because without being elevated to the position of a Gyani or a wise person, you cannot stick to the principle of worshiping Krishna. So there is an exchange of affection between him and the Lord. We cannot deny. 18. Yes, definitely there is graduation even over and above him. Like I told you, Uddhav. Obviously, Uddhav is much higher than that even. Okay, but it's often misunderstood. This Gyani. Be very careful. Okay, I'll give you a quote of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur on 1855. You're going to understand perhaps better. 1855 is a very important verse. Let me read out to you. I think it applies to the passage on the study. 1855, Bhaktimama Bijanati is a very famous verse. One can understand me as I am, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by devotional service. When one is in full consciousness of me by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. Let's listen to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur on this verse, 1855. However, those who practice Gyan mixed with Bhakti, while thinking that the personal form of the Supreme Lord is Satchitanand, gradually attain Bhakti after the influences of avidya and vidya cease to act on them. They are Jivan Muktas, and are of two types. Some of them perform devotional service for the sake of attaining Sayujya. These achieve transcendental realization of the Supreme Entity and Sayujya within that Supreme. They are certainly praiseworthy. The others, they are the second type of Jivan Mukta. The others are very fortunate souls. By some trick of fate, they get the association of sober, pure devotees. By the influence of such devotees, they give up their desire for liberation. Like Shukdev and others, they're drawn in the sweet taste of the mellows of devotional service. They are supremely praiseworthy. So we are talking about that one. If you want to be technical, we are talking about that one, the second type of Jivan Mukta. The first time, as described by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the first time is a Jivan Mukta, but we don't want him. We don't want to follow in his footsteps. He wants to merge, Sayujya. Now, we're talking about the second type. What is the difference? They don't want Sayujya. And by trick of fate, by Kripa, Vaishnav Kripa, they get the association of pure devotees. Just like it says here in 19, Bhavanam Jamanamante, they have been getting, they have been getting the association of devotees. Now they attain Krishna. And when they attain Krishna, they become pure on the spot because they are already Nirgun. You understand the difference? It is not a regular classical monist as we hear, like an empiricist. Be very careful on this one, because I can see perhaps Chandrasekhar was not clear on that. Oftentimes I notice that I've been teaching Gita for 20 years. Devotees put their foot in the mouth on this one. Is it clear?
Yeah.
Vignesh, Prabhu?
Yeah, yes, Prabhu.
Be careful. Gyani is in Sanskrit you find some big term, like Gyani. Gyani is a big term, Yeah, Sanskrit has to be defined with modifiers, just like in English. You can modify a noun by an adjective in the same way. It is a Jivan Mukta, but the good type of the Jivan Mukta. It doesn't want to merge, according to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So when you get bewildered on these verses, you look at 1855, just the one I just quoted, and then it will put you back on track. See, this is why it's important to understand between the lines that it's important to study under someone who knows, Otherwise, okay, it's just another Gyani, full stop. He's not an impersonalist. The only thing I can think of is the four Kumars. It's fresh in my mind because I'm teaching every other day in this topic, you know. Okay, so now we are on page. Thank you for the recap, Vignesh. Okay, so we're moving into basically demigod worship. Let's see. Where are we?
20.
Yeah, I just want to make sure of something. Hold on. Is it clear? I mean, no questions? Everything is fine? Okay.
Yes.
So now let's move into that subsection dealing with demigod worship. Okay, 20. You can read, I mean, it's like back to back, basically. 20, 21, 22, 23. It's the same bag. Yeah, up to 23 is the same bag.
Shall I read to 22?
Yeah, that 20 through 23.
Okay. Text 20. Those whose intelligence has been stolen by material desires surrender unto demigods and follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own natures. Text 21. I am in everyone's heart as the super soul. As soon as one desires to worship some demigod, I make his faith steady so that he can devote himself to that particular deity. Endowed with such a faith, he endeavors to worship a particular demigod and obtains his desires. But in actuality, these benefits are bestowed by me alone. Men of small intelligence worship the demigods, and their fruits are limited and temporary. Those who worship the demigods go to the planets of the demigods, but my devotees ultimately reach my supreme planet.
Okay, good. So my question remains in the homework. Why do certain fellows with material desires still worship the Lord, 2-3-10, and others resort to devatas puja? And of course, Goloka didn't answer, so no question. And then Vignesh answers at length. He answered quite nicely. I like this beautiful quote of yours from CC. Beautiful. Huh? What's better off to resort to Akama Sava Kamova Moksha Kama Udaradi Tivena Bhakti Yogena Yajitam Purusham Param, or to resort to classical demigod worship if we have material desires?
Resort to worship of Supreme Lord.
Yes. You follow Goloka, Bhataji?
Yeah, I think I sent you late.
No, I got it, but you didn't answer to the first question. You answered to the second. Is there a proper way to worship the devatas? So you answered, but the very first one you kind of skipped. It's okay, don't worry. So yes, one thing I could say is that Vignesh answered beautifully. Yeah? I really liked your quote from CC. Perhaps you can share with Goloka this quote because, I mean, you can paraphrase it, can kind of try to sum it up.
It's actually from the purport of Prabhupada in one of the verses of Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Okay.
So, like Krishna, the Chaitanya Prabhupada basically says,
it's always good to give the full reference, huh? CC and this Lila, which this chapter, this verse, etc. When you quote, it's always good to. Yes, go ahead.
So basically, Lord Krishna basically is saying, suppose if you have a desire, devotee may desire something other than service to lotus feet of Lord, even if it's anyakami, even if it desires anything other than direct worship of the Lord. So basically, Krishna gives shelter at his lotus feet, even though it does not aspire for it. Like it's just a thought process, it's a thought experiment kind of thing, I would say, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is basically saying that Krishna is thinking that the devotees engage in my service, but he still wants a desire, still has a material desire, still wants some material sense gratification. It's like rejecting a nectar, he's asking for some poison. So Krishna is thinking that he's such a fool, he's such a fool that in front of me is asking some material desire, but I can give him much more than that. So I'm intelligent, although devotee may not be intelligent, but I'm intelligent. So I will not give him material desire, but I will instead give him my own bhakti. So even if devotee approaches with some material desire, Krishna thinks that no, rather than just giving him material desire, I'll give him my own devotion service. And thus gradually, he develops bhakti for the Lord and he forgets the material desires. It's a gradual process of reformation that person undergoes if he takes shelter of Krishna, even if he has some material desire. So that is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told.
This is good. In one sense, it rings a bell with Anya Bilashita Shunyam Gyanakam Anavritam. When it says Anavritam, uncovered, we have to make sure that our Abhilash doesn't become covered with Gyan and Kama, etc. We may have some traces or even big spots of those. But if we make sure they don't come on the way when we worship, when we pray to Krishna, then it's still okay, you know? Vishwanath Chakravarti explains that. We want to make sure that our intent in the prayer doesn't make us a Mishra Bhakta. Like I quoted many times, Kapil Dev will say in third canto that Mishra Bhakti in a mode of goodness would be aspiration for liberation due to intense suffering. I want to leave this world, Krishna. Do we pray in those terms? Then Mishra Bhakta in Rajagun, I want to, could be like you said, Vignesh, it could be that fellow. I want to become a good devotee. I want to become a renowned devotee, a famous devotee. So he's using bhakti for self-aggrandizement. So that's bhakti, but Rajagun, Mishra. Then, of course, the worst would be Tamagun Bhakti, would be, I want to practice bhakti for the sake of harming others. So,
could this also include, Prabhu, like Smartas, like in Smartas, they have 5 forms of worship, right? So in them, one of the forms is Lord Vishnu. So even if there is a Vaishnava Smart, not a pure Vaishnava, but he still worships Lord Vishnu, but he's a Smart. So that could also...
Yeah, it's called the philosophical Vishnu, Prabhupada calls him. The philosophical Vishnu. I'll tell you a story. It happened to me. I was in Calcutta. It was Durga Puja. My guru, I was working with my guru in Calcutta. And, you know, Durga Puja is big in Calcutta, like 8 days in a row or something. They become wild. They turn over, they topple cars over and, you know, they drink and stuff. It's wild. So there was, I remember, right in the street, there was a little, like a flatbed truck, and on top of the flatbed vehicle, there was some kind of a makeshift temple with the pancha. What is it called in Sanskrit? The pancha. There's a name.
Pandal.
Yeah, no, but there's a name when it comes to those 5 deities.
Panchayatana.
Yeah, Pancha. Yeah, and there was Vishnu. So I started to pay more obeisances. My guru said no. He stopped me. I remember. Midway, I was going to fall on the floor. He said, no. And he said, they consider Vishnu as a demigod. Don't bother. And that struck me. That happened at least 25, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
That struck me big time. Because it stopped me from paying obeisances. I saw Vishnu amongst the 5. The others were Ganesh and Durga, perhaps, I forgot. But it stopped me midway. So, but still we have to draw a difference. And I didn't hear that from you as yet. Vignesh kind of touched on it. The difference between worshiping the Lord Sarvakama, you are full of material desires, but still you turn to Krishna, Tivena Bhakti Yogena, and the other fellow he feels perhaps embarrassed or he feels ashamed, so he's going to turn to demigods. There is an important difference here in terms of reciprocation from the given object of love, from the Ishtadev. Because remember, the demigods will not extract purification of the heart of the worshipper, of their worshipper. No. Krishna is very kind. He will extract purification from your heart when you worship him. He wants you to change. So even though you may be Sarvakami, then it's fine. At least you're turning to the right person. So he's going to extract. The demigod doesn't extract purification from your heart. He just looks at, did he fulfill his mandate? Did he fulfill his contract towards me? Yes, okay. This is the goods. This is the result. Please take it. Just basically it's mercantile transaction. You follow?
Yeah.
Yes.
And Lord Krishna is kind because he extracts purification. And that's why we should be very careful when it happens to someone else. Don't fall into the trap. Oh, let's say a devotee has a difficulty. Oh, look at him. He's having, that is his karma. Be very, very careful on this one. What is the proof? What is your shastric evidence? It is not his karma. Be careful. What is it? 10:14:8. Brahma.
Some token reaction, hasn't?
Tatenu kampam susamek shamano. Bunyanam evatma kritam vipakam. Rid vagvapubir vidadam namaste. Jivekta yo muktipade sa dayabhak. Brahma is saying, someone who carry on worshipping Krishna, Govind. He's speaking to Govind actually, after the blunder of Brahma Vimohan Lila. And he carries on with Rid Vagvapu, his heart, his body, his words, his speech. He carries on serving me. Even though he bears the reactions of his past misdeeds, and apparently is going through a tough patch for all to be seen. But he carries on. First of all, the misdeeds have been alleviated to a big extent by the grace of the Lord. So it's less, it's a token reaction, much less than what it would have been if he hadn't been a devotee. Number two, in the purport, look it up, 10:14:8. Lord Krishna is addressing his Hridaya Durbalya, his weaknesses of heart. He's pushing with his soft hand, lotus hand, is pressing softly on that particular touchy part of his character, touchy part. Krishna is pushing softly in the bad habits of the devotee, in the still dirty spots of his, within the corners of his heart. And from an outsider point of view, he may say, oh, he's going through his karma. Look at him. He's such a fallen soul. No, be very careful. It's not karma. It is Lord Krishna's sweet hand touching on the delicate, touchy parts of his weaknesses. Very subtle point. You follow the difference? So by all means, we should not fall into the trap. Anyway, we don't have this idiosyncrasy as ISKCON devotees. You don't see ISKCON devotees. I mean, never saw, going back to demigod worship. I've seen, I don't want to mention names, I've seen devotees, fully initiated, still keeping pictures of demigods on the altar. I've seen that in India. You know, like I've got, on my altar, I've got Ganesh and I've got Buddha. Ganesh is a worshipper of Nrsimhadev. So if you worship Ganesh as the remover of obstacles, it's fine. And Buddha I have because there's two Buddhas in Kali Yuga, two Buddhas. One is Vishnu Tattva. The one we worship is in Jayadev Goswami Dashavata Stotra, and this is Adi Buddha. And the second one is a Jiv, Gautam Siddhartha. But when we refer as Vaishnava, as Gaudiya, we refer to Buddha. We are referring to Adi Buddha, the first one. Okay, So is it clear? I mean, this section is quite straightforward, no? There's nothing incongruous. Is the proper way to worship the devotees? It's like we're opening open doors here. Yes, I remember Narayani Mataji. She was one of my Shastra Guru with Buddha. She used to say, if you worship, let's say, Shalagram Shila, you offer the bhog to your Shila, it's a Vishnu Shila, and then you offer to your demigod. You are very attached to demigod, okay, offer the prasad of Vishnu to the demigods, finish. As simple as that. That's what they do in Puri. Who is the first deity to get the Jagannath Prasad? In Puri? What is the first name? What is the childhood name of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur? Bimal Prasad. Because the first one to get the Jagannath Prasad is Bimala Devi. So there's nothing wrong. Nothing wrong. You want to worship demigods? Okay, but make sure you give them Vishnu Prasad. That's fine. It's a waste of time because Yasmin Tushte Jagat Tushte. And we know the verse. There's no need to go. And what is the verse? Narad, first canto. Mula, Jato Mula Nishechanina. Jato Mula Nishechanina. If you worship the root, at the root, then all the branches. Then, in general, why do the regular devata worshipper go to the devatas? What is their intent?
Because they have desires, some material desires to fulfill.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. This is the problem. It's a lack of tattva understanding. Again, the key verse is Akama Savakamuva. But again, they are quite actually biased in their approach because they know, many Hindus know in the back of their mind, they know that I'm not going to approach Lord Krishna because they're very much afraid of that, isn't it? Maharaj Yudhishthira, he asked Lord Krishna, why are we always being afflicted by destiny? 1088.8 Srimad Bhagavatam. He's asking his cousin Krishna, why are we so much? After all, you are our cousin. You are the supreme. Why we're so much afflicted by destiny all the time? And Lord Krishna answers, when I show my mercy, I deprive the fellow of everything. Nothing left. Stripped off everything. Just like Prabhupada said, it happens to him. He said, it happens to me. Yeah. But Prabhupada said that. He said, I was kind of slow in reacting, in giving up everything. Bhaktisiddhanta would appear, take sannyas. He was horrified, he used to say. He was horrified. But remember, in the 50s, his staff would steal from the shelves while he was gone on prospecting with a train, prospecting for new customers or trying to clear the debit of so many customers. A lot of customers owed money to Prabhupada when he was traveling around. He had time to recover the debts of all these fellows. And the staff would steal from the shelves, would steal from the cash register. So this is what happened. He understood. So, the demigod worshipper, he knows. He's a bit fearful of Krishna because he knows, I don't want to lose everything. So better, let's remain on the safe side. Let's approach.
I remember when I was in Malaysia.
Yes.
There are devotees there. They don't want to keep the picture of Krishna, like the house, because they think if they worship Krishna, Krishna will take away everything.
Yeah, many Hindus, it says it's a tacit understanding. They are not, because Hindus are obviously, Prabhupada said this, you scratch a little bit, bhakti is there. This is the higher race, we cannot deny. But they're afraid to lose out, to miss out. They don't understand this verse. Akama Savakamuva, Muksha Kamaldarati. Okay, since all devas are parts of the Virat, why not we access to the same destination if we worship any one of them? Did you answer, Goloka, on this one? Yeah, you answered at length. Yeah, you remain extremely generic in your answer. What does Vignesh say? Virat is imaginary, especially for neophytes. Yeah, so again, I think you are quoting, Vignesh, you are quoting Bharat Maharaj, perhaps not in that particular answer, but I saw that you were quoting him. Bharat Maharaj, you know him, fifth canto, he access to the level of Bhav Bhakti just by worshipping demigods. But be careful, how was he worshipping demigods? In which manner?
It was to answer to my question number 2. Is the proper way to worship the devatas.
Yeah, you mentioned
I quoted that verse because Bharat Maharaj was thinking that because in the part of Yajna, normally many other devatas are called like as a process. So he was thinking that all devatas are the limbs of the Supreme Lord. They are like assistant, like limbs of the Supreme Lord and not Lord themselves. He didn't think that devatas are independent of the Supreme Lord.
Yeah, this is the point. Because we have to acknowledge that for millennia, what was the process per excellence? Worship demigods. Nothing new. Just like we hear in the Gita 3:10, if you worship them, their prosperity will reign.
Yeah, even Nanda Maharaj worshipped demigod. Lord
So,
Shiva.
we cannot deny that's the main, I would say, the classical way since time immemorial to worship in India, even way before Kali Yuga. But at least they had this understanding, like Bharat Maharaj way back then. Yes, be careful. They are part of the Virat. They are part of the Godhead. So they wouldn't fall into the trap of becoming covered over.
But it's an act of gratitude kind of thing. Maybe we can worship in that sense. As a, like just expressing gratitude for the devatas because they also offer something to us. Like Krishna mentions in the cycle of Yajna.
Yes, stena, otherwise stena eva saha, otherwise you're a thief, stena. So, but again, that you can see in one sense, our revolutionary is Srila Prabhupada. Because, at least for Videshis like me, we were not conditioned by the worship of the demigod. So if for us, it's not a hang-up. You're not going to see a demigod. I mean, the Videshi, of course, we're not Videshi, we are spiritual. You're not going to see a white devotee blooping and turning to demigod worship. It never happens. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Because we didn't have this condition. So it's a conditioning particular to Indians, I would say. Because it's fully ingrained in since time immemorial in India, worshiping the demigods.
Yeah, when you see the gopis that go and worship Katyayani, and Nanda Maharaj worship like Lord Shiva or Shivratri and Indra. Because
there's always the negative counterpart, the positive counterpart. You worship Lord Shiv. If you worship him as Vaishnavananda Shambhu, it's fine. I'll tell you the story with Buddhajan that Buddhajan told us long back. Buddhajan was, as you know, for many decades, he was in the Far East, Tokyo, Hong Kong, Manila. And one time he organizes a program for Srila Prabhupada in the Shivala. You know the Shivala? In Mauritius, there's lots of Shivala.
Yeah.
I used to live in Mauritius. But
Yeah,
that wasn't in Mauritius. He was in.
I am from Mauritius.
I was there in 95 through 97. You know, I really liked it.
I was not there.
You were there also?
No, I left in the 80s.
Oh, I see. I was there in 95. I used to have my own center there. So anyway, back to the story. And he organizes at the Shivala. And then, okay, everything is happening. You know, ISKCON is coming, the founder Acharya is coming. Last minute, they cancel. So he tells Srila Prabhupada, he was quite despondent because everything was prearranged, everything is last minute on their side, they canceled. So he tells Srila Prabhupada, he was quite mortified a little bit. Huh? Prabhupada immediately told him, did you say something against Lord Shiva to them? No, Prabhupada was a bit getting on his case. And then, plankton. And then, Buddha just said, no, I didn't say that. But they gave the excuse that we worship Lord Shiva as God. So then Prabhupada said, oh, okay, then we won't go. You know, it's interesting because immediately Prabhupada assumed Buddhajan had made some offense towards Lord Shiva. So, you know, Buddhajan told us it was a twofold lesson. First lesson, he assumed he made an offense towards Lord Shiva, which was not true. Then when he heard the excuse of those organizers, oh, you come, but Lord Shiva is God, please come. Prabhupada said, no, we won't come. So, you know, very properly, Prabhupada put everything in place. We should not lack of respect. Definitely. There are much more. They are Vibhutimat Sattva in Sanskrit, it's called. Vibhutimat Sattva. Very advanced personalities. Even there's a verse by Shukdev Goswami in the 10th canto. What is it? You know this verse, Vignesh? 10:33-29, I think. No matter how much apparent misdeed they may perform, immoral activities. For us, it's immoral. But Shukdev says, they have so much sukriti that immediately it's burned in the fire of their pious activities. I'll give you the verse. 10, I think it's 10:33-29. I was right. Shri Shukovacha Dharma Vyatikramo Drishta Ishvaranamcha Sahasam Tejiyasam Na Doshaya Vanesava Bujo Yatha. Shukdev. The status of powerful controllers is not harmed by any apparently audacious transgression of morality we may see in them. For they are just like fire, which devours everything fed into it and remains unpolluted. So we should never pass judgment. Even we see in the Bhagavatam, Indradev, Brahmadev. No, that's not our cup of tea, because they are higher persons. Just like if you see a very advanced devotee having difficulty, don't poke your nose. Okay. Next, I think we covered. Do you have any questions on this demigod worship? I think it's quite clear. No?
Yeah.
24. 24 is interesting. $724. The total different slant altogether.
Yeah, you want me to read?
Yeah. Go ahead.
And intelligent men do not know me perfectly, saying that I, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, was impersonal before and have now assumed this personality. Due to their small knowledge, they do not know my higher nature, which is imperishable and supreme.
Yes. So whom are we talking about here?
Yeah. impersonalist, the
impersonalist. This is the downside. This is the what you call it, this discrepancy behind their philosophy. They're thinking he was avyakta, he became vyakta, and again he will become avyakta. So what is the verse to corroborate that? As spoken by Lord Brahma when Lord Krishna is still in the womb of Devaki. What is the verse, Vignesh? 10:2-32. Yeye levindaksha vimukta maninas avishuddha buddhaya. They are thinking themselves liberated. It's just in the mind. They're in the mind, they are thinking I'm liberated. No, they are not liberated. Avishuddha buddhaya. The buddhi is avishuddha, impure. And because even though Aruya, Krishna, they are steeped in austerity, much more than us. But because Yasmin Angraya, they haven't clasped the Lord's lotus feet, Patanchadaha, they fall down. So even though they may go back to, look at Durvas Muni, he went to Vaikunt even. They may go back into Brahman. They are Nirgun. 255, Atmakami. They are totally Atmakama, Atma Tripta. But still, they go back. So this verse is very good to defeat impersonalism. Less intelligent, again, less intelligent, Ajananto. And Prabhupada goes at length. He's quoting 10:14:29. They haven't gotten the mercy. This is the point. See, and again, I'm going back to 7, 17, 18, 19. See, you understand the difference now? This fellow of 24 didn't get the mercy. Whereas the candidate of 7, 17, 18, he got the mercy. He's a Jivan Mukta, he got the mercy from the Vaishnava and from the Lord. First the Vaishnava, then comes along the Lord Kripa. That's the difference.
Maybe we can classify, like, we have two types of Gyan, right? One we have Bhagavad-gita, one is Nirvishesh Gyan. So maybe the first one which Krishna is talking about is about the Bhagavad-gita, about Bhagwan realization. And this is about Nirvishesh.
Yeah, definitely. Even if we want to be finicky, we'll find lots of different Gyanis. I made a chart, I can send it to you long back. I was in Cape Town in those days, South Africa. I made a chart, must have been 2003, I made a chart with of all the, not all the shlokas, but the key shlokas of the Gita. How do they relate to one another? I will send it to you. Remind me, I'll send it to you. I used to love doing charts in those days. Is it clear, 24, Goloka?
Yeah.
So it's interesting because it gives, Lord Krishna is giving a slant, his perspective on their mind. The mind of whom? The mind of the impersonalist. What do they think? It's easily defeatable. Okay, 25.
Yeah. I am now manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them, I am covered by my internal potency, and therefore they do not know that I am unbound and infallible.
Yes, so here, it's a very vast, the possibilities of understanding are quite multiple here. How do you understand? What is the first glance on this verse? The classical, I would say, the classical perspective. What is it? What does Prabhupada say in 25?
He's covered. He's never manifest to people, to the impersonalists.
Yes. Atmavan manyate jagat. You cannot force Krishna to reveal himself. And there's a verse in English, like in French, to condescend. You know that verse? in English, to condescend. It's very arrogant. I condescend to grant your desire. You know, if you tell that to someone, it's very arrogant. To condescend, you know, that it's an English word, verb. So here, Lord Krishna condescends to reveal himself. You cannot force Lord Krishna. And of course, you may refer yourself to the Liberty Purport of the Gita, Bhagavatam, 1637. And this is the Liberty Purport. In regard to Dasiputra, when Narad was Dasiputra, is relating the whole story to his disciple Vyas. And in that section 1637, you know, Narad is telling, I'm not hindered in my movement. Prabhupada says he's a transcendental astronaut, Narad. He can move everywhere. In that purport, look it up, 1637, it says very clearly that Bhakti, just like the Lord is independent, Bhakti is also independent. And it goes, it's an amazing purport. Many devotees fall from high when they read that purport. Even though it says the candidate may fulfill all the formulas, still, he cannot assure himself that he's going to get Bhakti. He may or may not. And then he goes on further, Prabhupada. He says, he may strive to get Sadhu Sangha. He may or may not get it. Even the very fundament of getting Sadhu Sangha, that itself is Kripa. We should never be thinking, it's due to me. I've been practicing properly for 20 years, 30 years, 50 years, 500 years. It's bound to happen. Never. In that purport, Prabhupada says it's always, she has her own sweet will. She's so powerful, Bhakti Devi, she can even bestow Lord Krishna upon the candidate. So how can you influence her? It's not even by your Bhakti. We say, okay, Bhakti Mama Bijanati, but she has the upper hand. She will decide, not you. So this is the point. We can never force Krishna. Just like if you go to the theater and you pay your ticket, you have got your seat. Unless and until the curtain is lifted, you won't be able to behold or to watch the play. So this is exactly 2025. Unless, Queen Kuti is making the same point, you are covered by the curtain of Maya. The curtain of Maya, unless you lifted that curtain. You may be seated in the audience. Unless the curtain is lifted up, you won't be able to watch the scene, to watch the play. Even though you paid, you got your seat. So it's always, the honors is on the Lord, is on the Bhakti side. And we should be. Jiva Goswami on this one says, ordinary people may think that Krishna is merely an expansion of the Supreme. Even those candidates fall into that verse. If you think, well, Krishna, we know, is a Vishnu expansion. They're also falling into that verse. They have been covered over. Because what is the verse, 1328? And the emperor verse of Bhagavatam.
Krishna's to Bhagwan's way.
Sorry?
Krishna's to Bhagwan's way.
Yeah. So even that understanding is quite rare. Many fellows, even in other sampradayas, they will say, no, Krishna is expansion. So they are somewhat covered, 725.
Well, I would like to just ask one thing on this point. Like we follow a tradition of Brahmavadi, like Gaudiya Madhva Sampradaya, but then Sri Madhvacharya himself actually had given a different interpretation of this verse. How should we understand in that case? Because we under in the same parampara of Madhvacharya, but he's not in sync with the explanation that we give in that particular context.
Yeah, we have to remember that Madhvacharya lived in the 12th century. even though by the grace of Baladev Vidyabhushan, we have been labeled as belonging to Madhva, all the grace, all the salutations to Baladev Vidyabhushan. He's the one who connected us to the Tattvavadis. Huh? You know that. But still, in terms, when it comes to Tattva today, they are the most apart from us. You know that. Huh? I don't know if you know Vidvan Golanga in Mayapur. I used to have extensive discussion with him. He's very learned. Vidvan, huh? Vidvan is learned. And I remember he used to tell us, when you look at the four sampradayas today, who is the closest to us in terms of practicalities? The Nimbak. The Nimbak.
Okay.
Nimbak are very, 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 very close to us. I mean, they accept the gopis, they accept Achintya Bedabed. They're very slight variations, tiny actually. I remember one practicality is different. They allow themselves to work on Govardhan. We don't. But they allow themselves.
What do they worship usually? What's like the main deities?
They worship Radha Krishna. Totally Radha Krishna. They are into Gopi Bhav and all these things. They worship Shukdev. A friend of mine, Jayashri in Vrindavan, very good friend of mine, she was a Nimbaki. And I remember temples. Shukdev is there, Radha Krishna, Shukdev Goswami, very close. And the Tattvavadi, of course, there's one very great acharya of the Tattvavadi recently. He advocated publicly that Prabhupada is the greatest of all. He had extremely praiseworthy terms for Srila Prabhupada. But in general, the Tattvavadi today, Dupi, they are far from us. Very far. Even Mahaprabhu, when he went to Udupi himself, remember the CC, he found already discrepancies in their practice. Remember, Vignesh? If you look at the CC, he told them, because they were asserting the pursuit of Varnashram Dharma, the Varnashram pursuit. And even Mahaprabhu pointed out, already you have digressed from Madhvacharya. Already. That was in the 16th century. Yeah. What to speak now? So, we have full respect for Madhvacharya, but obviously we don't need him for when it comes to Tattva. We have Mahaprabhu, So by far, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu supersedes. Actually, my Guru Maharaj was a little more gracious than me by far. He used to say, Mahaprabhu has taken 2 points from each sampradaya. And then, beautiful image, if you have 4 pillars, solid pillars of the house, then you can put the roof. So the roof is Mahaprabhu, Achintya Bedabed. And the 4 pillars of the house are the 4 sampradayas. And Mahaprabhu specifically took 2 points from each sampradaya. So, but to answer your question, Vignesh, no wonder that you're saying Madhvacharya has a different list in the sampradaya. Yes, most probably. Look at Madhavendra Puri Gosai. He was sannyas in the Tattvavadi. But what he advocated is way beyond the Tattvavadis. He advocated, for the first time, he advocated the Madhurya Bhav, Madhurya Prem. The first one to even speak or to demonstrate in his prayers and in his samadhi. He advocated the conjugal love between Radha and Krishna. And that was later emphasized by Ishvara Puri and then Mahaprabhu. But is that found somewhere in the Tattvavadi, this concept of Madhurya Bhav? Nowhere. So even though, because in those days, from whom do you take sannyas? You take sannyas from the Shankar, or you take sannyas from the Tadvavadis, no choice. Even Mahaprabhu himself took sannyas from the Shankar, Keshava Bharati. Some say that Keshava Bharati actually he got initiated by Madhavendra Puri Gosai, and some say he even took sannyas. There's some controversy. So no wonder you'll find discrepancies. Or basically, for us, Gaudiya Vaishnav or guide is the 6 Goswamis, But again, we fully acknowledge Prabhupada. Mahaprabhu was very, very fond of Madhvacharya. He said it is the most powerful Acharya.
They accept, I think he said they accept the form of the Lord as true, or like unless other.
He acknowledged that. He took the form of Bal Gopal. That's wonderful. He accepted the form of the Lord. There's and perhaps I have to look. I've got the form. I've got the sheet here. I'll send it to you also if you want. The 2 points he took from his Sampradaya. Okay, so let's move on. 26.
Okay. 26.
Yeah.
Oh, Arjuna, as a supreme personality of Godhead, I know everything that has happened in the past and all that is happening in the present and all things that are yet to come. I also know all living entities, but me no one knows.
Yes. So, to remind us that Krishna's form is not material. Mam tuveda nakaschan. It's been reiterated in this chapter. Remember, this is one of the main stress of this chapter, by the way. Where did we come across the same point in the same chapter? Try to remember very beginning of the chapter, the same point. Manushanam sahasreshu kashit yatati sidaye. Out of many thousand among men, one may endeavor for perfection. And of those who have achieved perfection, only one knows me in truth. It's not easy. No one knows. He says here, 26, no one knows me. And in 7.3, hardly one knows me in truth. It's not easy. 7.13 also. 7.13 amounts to that. 7.13 having to do with Tribir Gunamaya, I think it is. Tribir Gunamaya Baver. Same point, deluded by the modes, the whole world doesn't know me. Same point. 3 times he's going to reiterate that point. No one knows Krishna except the pure devotee. Actually, only the pure devotee can get Krishna. If we boil it down to what it is. And remember, Durvasamuni goes back to Vaikuntha. He's being chased by the chakra of Vishnu. He has offended Bharaj and Barish. Please help me, my dear Lord. What does he say? Shri Bhagavanu Vacha, Aham Bhakta Paradino, Yasvan Tretra Dvija. I'm dependent on the will of my devotees. I'm not independent. Even though he says 111, he says, Abhigya Swarat. I'm totally independent. When it comes to Lila, he's not independent. He's dependent on the will of the pure devotees. Only the pure devotees can, because it's hidden. Mahabharata Yudhishthira says it's hidden in the heart of the pure devotees. Dharmam, what is that verse? Vignesh, in the Mahabharata, Yudhishthira is speaking. Dharmam nihitam guhayam. Hridayam nihitam guhayam. It's hidden in the heart of the pure devotees. That's why Bhakti Thakur is saying, I'm Vaishnav Thakur. I'm running after you. Please give me Krishna, give me Krishna. There's no other way, actually. It's true. So for the layman, they're claiming, oh yes, I know Radha Krishna, Radha Krishna. The door is closed. It's Braj Bhakti. That is why we should be stressing much more Panchatattva in this Kali Yuga. Even as ISKCON, I notice we don't stress enough Panchatattva. Gaunitai, Gaunitai, Jagannath, Gaunitai. They are self-manifested. Radha Krishna is Braj Bhakti. It's very high, very, very high. The only way through is go Nitai, punch that well. That's why we should be telling the people much more than, worship Krishna. It's so high. Of course, Prabhupada defeats the argument of the Mayavadis. Maya cannot cover the Supreme Lord. We know all these things. And then 27 is a reminder. Why can't they make it? Can't they get it right? Because 727.
We're born in delusion.
We are born in delusion. To start with, the body is the mark of our fallenness, As soon as you have a body, it means you're fallen. You've done something wrong. If you have shackles at your feet, even though you claim to be innocent, you have done something wrong somewhere. Otherwise, you wouldn't get a material body. As simple as that, And of course, this is the problem with the Shaktas. They have destroyed, 3 things destroyed India. What are those 3 things that destroyed India for the last so many millennia? The Shaktas, the Mayavadis, the Smartas. Not only destroyed India, all the great religious culture of the world were destroyed by these 3 things. Yeah. Egypt, Greece, Roman Empire, And see, the problem is, Prabhupada addresses in 27. They think that the Supreme is created by material energies. It's like pantheist. You know the pantheist? And you know the philosophy of pantheism? Goloka? Does it ring a bell? They're saying he has spread himself so thin in the creation that he exists in his creation. But he himself, as a person, is spreading himself so thin that he does. Well, yes, he exists in his creation. Prabhupada gives the example of if you tear paper in 100 parts, paper is gone with the wind. So in the same way they're thinking in their foolishness, Atmavan Manyate Jagat, that the Lord is pervading his creation, thus, hence, it doesn't exist anymore. He exists in his creation. Might as well worship the creation. So this foolishness due to our inimical nature, Krishna Bahir Mukh, can take the form and shapes of many wayward philosophies because they don't acknowledge, if we acknowledge, okay, I'm born foolish, then we take shelter to come out. 28, we're coming to an end most of the time. Yeah.
A person who have acted piously in previous life and in this life, and whose sinful actions are completely eradicated, are freed from the dualities of delusion, and they engage themselves in my service with determination.
Yeah. So, yeah, 27 is very important. Icha, basically, they desire to be God. Dvesha, they envy the position of God. That's how it translates, actually. So 28 is a reminder for all of us. We may be devotees, but we can acknowledge very simply and clearly if we are not so determined. Bogesh Vaya Prashaktanam Tasya Paritu Chetasam 244, same point. If we're not so determined, bhakti, it means we are still quite loaded with impurities. That is why not everyone is on the same page, even in ISKCON. You can see devotees sometimes, even they join after you, they fly. They advance very rapidly. Because why? Why?
Girls are pious.
They're more pious.
Mm-hmm.
Like Buddhism Prabhu used to say, they have paid the price. We cannot be envious. He used to say, if someone is purified, he has paid the price somewhere. He has purified himself. We may not see, perhaps we were not there when he got purified, but he already did it. We are still doing it. That's the difference. So we should not be envious. I jumped before him, I should be more advanced. No, it doesn't work like this. It doesn't work like that. It's not, seniority, just like I'm 40 years in the company, so you keep quiet. It doesn't work like that. Doesn't work. This is the criteria, 728. Are you purified? Are you purified enough? Did you act? How long have you been acting piously? That's the bottom line. How long have you been acting piously? How long have you been freed from pap? It makes a difference. It makes a difference in your practice on a daily basis. Otherwise, what is the outcome if you are still loaded with impurities? How is it going to translate in terms of daily life in your devotional service?
We may have mood swings. We will not be, maybe one day it's a good day for us, other day is not so good. We'll have some days, some day not others.
You should read the book, Madhurya Kadambini, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. The 6 symptoms of Anishtita Bhakti. You cannot lie. You cannot hide when you read that book. He goes very scrutinizingly. He analyzes what's keeping us from advancing in spiritual life. Gyanatarala, Tarangarangini, like Vignesh is saying, Gyanatarala means sometimes our bhakti is very thick, and next day or 2 days, very thin. I can do everything, Prabhu. I'm fired up like anything. Yeah, let's go on Harinam, let's do this, let's go on distributing books for 2 weeks in a row. And then totally consciousness is down the drain. It doesn't even come out from the truck. It remains hidden in the truck. It doesn't want to come out. So this is a symptom of Anishtita Bhakti, unsteady Bhakti. So we cannot deny that this is due because we haven't fully come out from impurities. Either because we came with lots of impurities, or it could be we don't practice very intensely. So the purification is slow. And the other fellow is practicing much more intensely. So it's
offenses, that was also
offenses also. Very good point. Thank you.
Yeah.
Offenses is there. Yeah, that's a very good point. It's detrimental. Atimata. Anything to add up to that? And of course, the bottom line is in 28. Tamudwaram Yushitam Sangi Sangam, if you associate with Asat Sangatyag, E Vaishnavachar, Sri Sangi Eka Sadhu Krishna Bhakta, as long as you keep even the door ajar with Kama, Krodh, and Lobe, you're playing with fire. It's going to
sometimes you're put in situations where where you are forced to associate with people who are not interested in Krishna consciousness.
Yeah, at work, for instance, right?
Yeah. Then your bhakti becomes weak and you don't know how to get out of it.
Yeah, I understand, especially if you work with non-devotees. That's what you're referring to?
Yeah. Sometimes when some members of your family, you have to stay close to them, but they are not like.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. So either you give them your association, or you remain very neutral and distant. I remember with my father, I was always distant all my life, actually. My father used to tell my mother, tell him this. And I would tell my mother, tell him that. It was like that. We were not on the same page, hardly ever. So, and he's my father. And he was a nice father also, some good sides, but we didn't get along. especially once I became a devotee. Then we drifted. But I had to bear, and then I took off. At one point I took off. I flew my own airplane. So this is a good reminder at 28. It's connected to 244, I would say. And sometimes we wonder why we are trying our level best to make him practice or make him join, and he doesn't because of this. He doesn't have, the adhikar is not strong enough. You follow? It's a matter of adhikar. If he doesn't have the adhikar as yet. But as soon as he becomes, I've got some friends of mine, they don't practice much, but they are friendly, favorable, so that's already a good start of an adhikar. Give them prasad. Like one lady, I told her, look, ISKCON Ukraine is struggling like hell. I'm going to give 100. Would you like to give something? She said, okay, I'll give 100 also. She doesn't practice much. She's got some books. But, she kind of likes the devotees, and I roped her in. I said, why don't you give 100? I said, okay, I'll give 100 also. So she gave me 100 and we gave 200, So it's like that. They don't have the adhikar in this life. But gradually, they are building the adhikar through the mercy of the devotees. Now we're getting close to the 8th chapter. Already 29 starts off getting into the color of the 8th chapter. 28.
Okay, 29, isn't it?
29, sorry.
Intelligent person who endeavoring for liberation from old age and death take refuge in me in devotional service. They are actually Brahman because they entirely know everything about transcendental activities.
Yes, so here, again, it can be a tricky verse to understand. Remember, we are on the threshold of the 8th chapter. 8th chapter is quite interesting also. It's called Taraka Brahma Yoga, this 8th chapter. Dealing a lot with Gyan and some key questions of Arjuna. So what are we learning here in 29?
It's that we can mistake that people say you're Brahman, that you can think that we merge into Brahman. But actually, when we become Brahman, we still keep our identity. We don't lose our identity. We're still part and parcel of Krishna. We're still like part of Krishna or Brahman, but we are not, this Param Brahman.
Yes, we are Aham Brahmasmi. Very good point. We are called Anu Brahman. And Krishna is Vibhu, Vibhu Brahman. Okay, anything you want to add up, Vignesh, on this one? How do you understand this verse?
One who's truly Brahman, he should take shelter of Lord Krishna. Like we often talk about Brahman, Mayavadis often talk about that. But Krishna here talking about that one who takes shelter of me, Mama Ashritya. They are actually Brahman. They are actually in the platform of Brahman.
Yes.
Not others.
Very good point. And a technical note here. Remember when we discussed in 716 the 4 Sukritina, remember?
Yeah.
So here, that would be the 5th Sukritina. The 5th Sukritina. He's a good guy, but desire of liberation. This is the 5th category. We could be added after 716. But that particular candidate here in this verse, it doesn't bring Krishna under control. Why? Because he's not so much the object of the affection of Lord Krishna. But Prabhupada, of course, is always ahead of us, even ahead of Lord Krishna. Prabhupada always does that. So in 29, just like Vignesh mentioned, if you are into Mama Shritya with Krishna, you take shelter of Mam. Mam means Krishna. Then then you're going to act on the platform of Brahman, which is 424. Remember? What is 424? You have to start. Yes, Vignesh?
Brahman, right? The Brahman verse. The Brahma,
yes.
Brahma.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. This is the connection. See, you have to start threading, your verses now. You've been around for so many months together. And you have to start, just like you're making a garland of shlokas. There's one disciple of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Out of the blue, he offered to his guru. I've got the book. It's called Vaishnav Mala. And Bhaktisiddhanta, he said, I'm very pleased with your garland of shlokas. What he has done in that book, he has respected tattva. And in each and every tattva, he defines different garlands of shlokas. So we should come to that understanding in Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vibhav, Up, we read 729, up, 424 should light up. Exactly this is the point, the same point. If you are absorbed in Krishna consciousness, then everything that partakes to that absorption, the contribution, the consummation, the utensils, whatever you use, your car, you're driving, your car is Brahman. You're going on Sankirtan, your bag is Brahman. It goes that far. Your shoes are Brahman. This is amazing. And Prabhupada explained in 424, it's like a bubble. Brahma's Jyoti. You move in the bubble of Brahman, and whatever you touch becomes Brahman. Whatever you contact, because you are totally steeped into Krishna consciousness, Mama Shritya, 729, then whatever you touch becomes, by absorption, becomes saturated with service to Krishna. So this is the verse. Otherwise, if the person doesn't do that in 729, then it's like, Sukritina, like a 716. He doesn't really get the object of affection of Lord Krishna. But again, if he does Mama Shritya, then Aham Brahmasmi, then on the platform of Brahman, Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma, then you can actually start worshipping Krishna. This is 1426. Mamsha Yoga Vicharina, Bhakti Yogena Sevate, Sagunan Samati Cheta, Brahma Bhujaya Kalpati. On level of Brahman, you start Bhakti. Actually, Bhakti starts there. If we are very specific, Bhakti starts there. Before that, it's just practicing Bhakti. Vedi Bhakti. But real Bhakti starts on the level of Nirgun. Brahmano. This is the verse. Bhakti Yogena Sevate. Isn't it true? We are practicing. We are practicing Bhakti. Just like a boy is practicing to ride a bicycle. He's got two wheels at the back to hold him steadily. It's not really, he doesn't know how to ride a bike as yet. He's pretending, perhaps, to his friend. But in reality, he doesn't know so much. Is it clear?
Yes.
Stop me if you have any query. Last verse, so it's totally ushering us into the 8th chapter now.
Text number 30. Those in full consciousness of me, who know me, the Supreme Lord, to be the governing principle of the material manifestation of the demigods and of all methods of sacrifice, can understand and know me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even at the time of death.
Yes. So what are the three principles? We're going to, of course, delve with them much deeper in the 8th chapter. What are we learning here? What are those three principles?
The Adibhuta, Adidev, and Adiyagya.
Exactly. Prayana Kale, even at the time of death. Yukta Chetasa, if you are understanding, just like, we discussed 4.9, if you understand the Jama Kamachami Divyam of Lord Krishna, then you can make it. Even Maharaj Kadvanga made it at the last minute of his life. And of course, that's what it takes here. We're going to discuss at length in the 8th chapter. What is Adibut? Adibut means?
The governing principle of all the material manifestations.
Yeah. Adidevam Devi, donc Devi, demigods.
The demigods.
Adi Yagya is Yagya Purush, is Yagyapati. Bhoktaram Yagya Tapasam. So we have to always, we hear Bhagavad-gita, we hear Srimad Bhagavatam. So many candidates are going through ups and downs, but we should not be allured by these monisms. We should not be allured by deity worship. We respect that path, and we understand it's certain fellows need it, but we're not allured. Of course, as devotees, how can we be allured by these things? You know. So, and Srila Prabhupada is at the very last paragraph is kind of recapping the whole chapter. This chapter was quite loaded with many, many tattva. The man in distress, the inquisitive man, the man in want of material necessities, knowledge of Brahman, knowledge of Paramatma, liberation from samsara, worship of the Supreme. So the main lesson, according to Srila Prabhupada, is 728. Rid of wrath, of firm determination. That's going to distinguish the boys from the men, or the girls from the ladies, basically. You know, if we are not, if we don't have this rid of wrath, then it's going to be a slow motion. Prabhupada did say not everyone's going to go back to the spiritual world at the same time. And it did say also, lots of my disciples will go to Swarga. It's amazing he said that. Anything you want to add up? It's we are on time. We are ahead of time. I'm not going to start off, obviously, the 8th chapter. It would be incongruous. Anything you want to add up? 7th chapter, or your realization? It's a beautiful chapter.
Yeah. Like for me, this chapter has been the first chapter which I read before coming to Krishna consciousness. Like because that 7.19 verse attracted me first. Like when Krishna says, "Bahunam janmanamante jnanavan mam prapadyate." So it was like I need to do something on this because it's not easy. After many verses, one is really a Gyani comes to Krishna.
So you were already a Gyani before you joined, I guess, no? Vignesh?
No, I was not a Gyani. Actually, say I was born into the typical family of India, where still many of my family members worship a lot of devatas. So that actually that verse actually struck me when I actually read that verses in the Gita, because I have been seeing many people who have been reading Gita as a born, but then I didn't understood them why they are still worshipping the various devatas. Maybe they have not understood Gita. What I don't understand.
This is,
so that actually struck me, that verse. So
yeah,
so then
you were gifted in understanding that point. How come they're still worshipping the devatas? If they read Gita day and night, there's something wrong. See, again, it boils down to Kripa. They haven't gotten the Kripa. You cannot force the Lord. You know, sometimes, I remember, very clearly in my mind, 84, 85, devotees had a restaurant in Paris, L'Arbre à Souhait, the desire tree, it was called. And, I was like all fired up. I love it. Let me go there day and night. So I would bring my friend, I'm like a very naive person. I bring my friend. Just like, I found a nice book, I found a nice place, let's go. I bring my friend. And no one likes it. They are blasting me. They're telling me you have to choose between this is crappy choice, and you have to make a choice between me and Krishna. They're blackmailing me. I know them for the last 20 years as a boy. They put me against the wall, and of course I was intelligent enough to say, well, I'm sorry, but I love it. And they just insulted me and never saw them again. They had been my friends for 20 years, nonstop. So then I pondered, and how could it be? Then I was kind of bewildered. Krishna is not fair. Then I was thinking like that, because I didn't have all these notions, the kripa. We cannot expect the Lord to give the same kripa to each and every fellow. It doesn't work like that. Goloka Mataji, you want to say anything?
Yeah, I'll just say that this, you were telling, even we have some devotees, they may be for 50 or 40 years, and there's some new devotee just come and advancing so much, in front of you. So it doesn't matter how long you're practicing Krishna consciousness. It depends on your previous pious activities and the sinful activities that you have committed.
Yes, number one.
It's eradicated, it's not gone, so you still
yes,
slow in advancing in Krishna consciousness.
Yes, and what to speak if you are still fanning those activities to some extent in your spiritual life. You still, just like we chant in the morning, and what is the last offense to Nam Aparad? To remain attached to
the strength of chanting.
Remain attached to sinful desires, even though we have understood the ludicrousness of the
so much instruction of this matter, yeah.
We understood it's ludicrous, but we remain attached. So, and the other fellow is not attached. So automatically, Krishna made him advance so quickly. It's not the fault is not on Lord Krishna. This person is more sincere, Dhridavrata. So we cannot be envious. He has paid the price. Everyone has to pay the price. And that's a very good point. You may have a nice car, but you're cruising at 30 miles an hour, 40 miles an hour. And the other fellow doesn't have such a good car, but he's going good speed. So he's gonna get there first.
Like yesterday, I happened to watch, some Zoom on Vaisasika Prabhu. There was follow-up, by the young youth, and I said, let me watch what kind of program the youth having. Oh my God, they're so advanced. And the way they read, they remember all the philosophy and how, they are trying to understand Krishna, and this had taken me so many years to come to that point. These children, they're only 14, 15, 12, and they're so advanced.
Yeah, actually, Bhagavan Prabhu, he used to say, the best devotee, he used to say that 30 years ago. He used to say, the best devotees haven't come as yet. And I remember I was struck because I was brand new, and he used to say, we are gotten the mercy first because we are very fallen, but the best will come later. And I think it's very true. Because now you can see, especially youngsters, the mind is sharper in one sense. Sharper there. I guess it's also because Krishna consciousness has been implemented on this planet for 50 years. Books have been distributed by millions. So there's definitely, it has created the proper atmosphere also, to some extent.
Then we can realize that these people, they act really pious in the previous life, so that in this life, at such a young age, they grasp Krishna consciousness so seriously.
You mean, of course, they are in the wake of Visheshika Prabhu, who is himself a extremely empowered person. He was there in Vrindavan when I was there. I mean, his classes are extremely, they are, you know, there's just, he's all-encompassing devotee. Totally all-encompassing. He's on a different platform. And he himself, he joined at 15 or 16. Now he's 60, you know, so you do the maths, you know. Very steady practice for 50, 55 years. So, you know, he's not holding back. He's not holding back. This is an he's a role model, basically, Visheshika Prabhu. He's a role model. At least for me. He's coming to New Mayapur, by the way, early April. He's coming here.
Nice. Yeah, he's so wonderful. I love his association and his classes. And
he paid the price. We may find excuse, well, he doesn't have children, blah, blah, blah. This is all material. He paid the price of Mama Shritya, we discussed, Mama Shritya. He surrendered. So he's got a different access to a different reality. As simple as that. Mama Shritya.
Sister.
And you know, if you don't surrender, or if we partly surrender, then obviously the result is different. Krishna is not going to finger point us at us. No. It's just.
I see like Vignesh is more pious than me because he's so well-versed in the scripture.
Actually, there are two things. In my opinion, like I'm personally like I like reading Shastras, but I would not say I'm pious. But I think but there are people who may not be very much intellectual or maybe a Jnani kind of person, but they are very sincere and the heart is very soft.
Very true.
And the simplicity actually attracts, I think, Krishna much more.
Yeah,
I think that is important. Simplicity of heart.
Especially ladies, you know, sometimes they may not know so much, but they are so sincere and they walk their talk. If you walk your talk, that's what Krishna wants. He doesn't say, oh, he knows 53 verses or 528 shloks. No. Does he walk his talk? As simple as that. When you see the kind of devotees who go back to Krishna, I mean, recently here, at least in France, many devotees left the world, at least 5 or 6 in the last 6 months. And it's a reminder for all of us. I mean, who's next? Who's next? And still yesterday, I heard one very great devotee, Malhotra. He used to run the biggest Indian groceries warehouse in Europe. He left the world. Very nice fellow. And I've seen, you know, very simple devotees leaving the body. And practically you don't notice them. Yeah. You know, they may not even give the class. When you give the class, you don't even pay attention. But when he leaves the world, you realize, wow. When you hear people glorifying after he left, 2-3 days in a row, you understand, actually, I misread him. I misread him totally. Because
often we don't value the person when they are personally present in front of us.
We just take it for granted. Because he doesn't splash anything, he's very low profile. Actually, this is when you look at him, is the embodiment of devotion. It's tolerating and low profile. And so much low profile, you practically ignored him for 30 years. And when he leaves the body, you realize, wow, I'm far, very far. Krishna took him in a very delicate way. No one even noticed. You know, he left as he lived, unnoticed. There's some devotees who left recently in that They were in that category, you know, unnoticed death.
That's the same issue. You cannot judge a devotee, you know, by his appearance. We don't know what's going on in the heart, how much they love Krishna.
Very steady and simple. Gokul Maharaj used to say Saralata, simplicity is the biggest quality. He would put Saralata on the first note, first quality, he would say Saralata, simplicity. Hare Krishna. So thank you very much. I'm going to be very soon, I mean, practically tomorrow or day after tomorrow, I will submit the papers so that my institute can start teaching BV, Bhaktivedanta. So I hope I will get you in the group. I mean, once you get your Bhakti Shastri. It's important
so we're just keeping the 2 hours, the 4 hours not practical for the other teachers.
Yeah, Chandrasekhar put his foot down. But I mean, BV, be careful. It has to be 4 hours. Huh? I calculate because they're very finicky. They ask me, what is your time frame? You know, you're talking about 6 cantos, Nataji. And I noticed that with paper, I calculated if I go at a rate of 2 hours a week, it is going to take more than 6 years. Can you imagine? So there's no way around. We have to make it twice 2 hours. Then it will be 3 hours, 3 years something.
So when is the expected time we're going to finish? Is that
Bhakti Shastri is going to take you 2 years at this rate. Chandrasekhar doesn't want to speed up. That is his shot because that is.
It's going to be 1 year very soon.
Yeah,
June.
so we have covered 3 shows. We are midway in Gita. Then Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, only 19 chapters. Purva Vibhag, Upadeshamrita. It took me 2 years with the other group. I just finished in December. It's going to take you 2 years at this rate. And then after that, you can move on, get on board with BV. BV will take.
We have a course called Bhakti Vedanta, you said, right, earlier?
Yeah, I personally, I'm not certified Bhaktivedanta, so I don't know. Even though in Vrindavan they let me teach Bhaktivedanta, even though I don't have the diploma. No reason. But for my institute, it will be perhaps difficult for me to apply because I don't have the diploma of Bhaktivedanta. I've got the diploma.
That is for sannyasis? That is for sannyasis?
Yeah, actually, that's another discussion. See, in 76, Prabhupada was very explicit. He wrote a letter to Bhakti Swarudamudar Maharaj from Manipur. And then he says in that letter, Bhakti Shastri should be, he says, second initiation. Bhakti Vibhav should be for sannyas, and I think he said Bhaktivedanta for guru. Who is respecting that? Still today, we haven't come to terms with that letter. Still today, we are not. Now, what we do in ISKCON is Bhakti Shastri. It's for second initiation, and sannyas, you need Bhakti Shastri. Bas.
Yeah, when we joined, Bhakti Shastri was not emphasized. Only few devotees know about it.
But you know what I'm saying? When you look at the expectations of Prabhupada in 76 and that letter, it's a different story. Huh? He's saying Bhakti Shastri is second, Bhakti Vibhav Sannyas, Bhakti Vedanta Guru. And of course, you may say, of course, you could argue with that because I don't know if you have seen the Bhakti Shastri as advocated by Srila Prabhupada. It's a very, very simple Bhakti Shastri. Who is Krishna? What are his energies?
Is that the one they're doing for the first initiation people nowadays? That now,
now for the initiation, you need disciple course. I'm teaching that one also. You need disciple course now. It's compulsory.
Is it Bhakti Shastri? Is it called Bhakti Shastra?
No. It's called Disciple Course. It's a 10, 12
For
hours.
second initiation, they said you have to take Bhakti Shastra.
I thought it was compulsory. Recently, Chandrasekhar had an argument with Jananand Maharaj. And Jananand Maharaj, what he did, he contacted the GBC. And GBC replied, no, it's to the discretion of the Guru. Okay. Certain countries like Russia, it's compulsory. But besides Russia, not many gurus are enforcing it.
Yeah. Yeah, we like so many gurus are initiating, like, old Matajis, who doesn't have any knowledge about,
That's what I'm saying. It should, personally, I would be in favor of having a certain standard for initiation. Now it's compulsory. The disciple course is compulsory. I'm teaching that a lot. It's a small course, 10, 12 hours. Whoever has to be initiated, the guru cannot avoid that. Otherwise, they will be at fault. It's compulsory. Because many devotees don't understand with Prabhupada or how the gurus are related to Prabhupada. There will be more and more gurus. There's 200 or 300 gurus now already in ISKCON. And it's going to become bigger and bigger. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for the class.
Yeah. So, I guess Chandrasekhar will start the 8th chapter. Oh yes, Goloka, don't forget to recite all your shloks. Vignesh recited all the shloks in one go.
All of them? I know 6 and 7 by heart.
So you call me and you just recite them, and then whenever you're ready, call me on WhatsApp.
Chapter by chapter, so for me that's
if you want to do it now, it's fine. Huh?
Okay.
I mean, it's up to you. At least you get that done. I
can do it now.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay. Yogi
don't open the book.
No. I don't have a book now. It's chapter 6.
Okay.
In the last
verse. Oh, you're going the other way around.
I know. Chapter 6,
yeah, you can start from the last portion down to the beginning. Fine with me.
Yeah, chapter 6, I didn't do that. I did that everything before the chapter, the last verse.
Oh, you recited to me already?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. I believe you.
I called you twice. I did.
No, you called me. I remember now. A few
Yeah.
times, huh? So only one chapter is left.
Chapter 6, 7, I have to do them onward.
No, not 7. 7 is, I mean, no, let's be systematic. Because remember, I'm going to divide the Gitas in 3 portions. So you cover the chapters, the shloks pertaining to the first 6 chapters. 7, we are already in the middle section.
Verses remain for the 6 chapters. That's it. Because I already.
Chapter 6, I think there is only 1 verse, right? If I'm correct.
There's only one verse.
647.
I can say that.
Oh,
I can recite it now. Yoginam api sarve samagate antaratmana sarvam bhajate yomam ame yukta tamosime.
Yukta tamomataha. Wonderful.
So, yeah, sorry.
Okay, good. Translation.
Yukta tamaha, yeah. Of all the yogis, one whose great faith abides in me, render devotional sings on me from within, and render transcendental devotional service unto me, is most intimately united in yoga with me, and the highest of all. That is my opinion.
Wonderful. Okay, 100%.
Yeah, I learned chapter 7 also.
Yeah, well, keep it for a couple of months from now when we'll be finished with the middle section.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Have a nice week. Hare Krishna.
That's the last one. Only one left for the last 6 chapter. I already recite all my verses. You forgot.
No, but I know, but I trust you,
Yeah.
Usually, by the way, I'm giving you facilities when other teachers won't do that. Huh? Other teachers will say, okay, that day you recite the shlokas, and they're not going to tell you, please 2 here and 2 there and 3 there. No. I'm very mellow. Other teachers won't do that. Never.
I've been doing like after finishing each chapter, I've been reciting all of my verses.
And other teachers, you know what they do? They don't even cut the Gita in 3, they cut the Gita in 2. You know that? 9 chapters in one go. And then I had so many students complaining, Prabhu, it's too much, blah, blah, blah. So I cut it in 3 years ago. Otherwise, it's in 2. When I was myself a student, it was in 2 times 9.
We were talking the other day, maybe you should do 3 chapters and get the exam, because 6 chapters, there was so many questions.
Yeah, I have to mark it. Yesterday, I wanted to mark my son dragged me to the zoo yesterday, This boy is always, I'm going to mark it. And today, I'm going to mark it. So many essays and closed book. Okay, but definitely, Vignesh, less pages. Huh? one essay is 28 pages.
Oh, yeah, the second essay.
He beats everyone.
I try my best to reduce it now.
Yeah. Anyway, Hare Krishna.
Actually, to understand, I do it consistently at times. I don't do it in one shot. So I do it little bit every day.
It's interesting.
I don't understand how it increases the length automatically.
For BV, you can do that. I remember when I did my BV, I wrote on Uddhav. I think I must have written 50 pages. I made extensive research, and you have to present to a jury of devotees, and you have to explain and Uddhav and the Tatwa, the Lila, and all these things. Anyway, we'll come to that. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol.